Hello and welcome back, Outrun abusers, to episode number 4 of our coaching series, where we are taking theory and putting it into practice. Today we're going to tackle a somewhat controversial topic, which will be how poker actually works. We are going to be discussing a bunch of key concepts to understand where the money is coming from in poker and how we are going to maximize our expected value in different situations. So let's take a look at some very important concepts first. Firstly, we're always trying to take the highest EV option for every single hand in every single situation. That means we also have to identify how we maneuver each individual hand into a positive EV situation by either betting, raising, or checking.
Okay, can you clarify this a little more?
Of course, so for example, if our hand is worse than our opponent's range equity-wise, then we can fold out our opponent's hands which are better than our particular holding, and therefore make money by folding out better. Also, on the flip side of this, if we can't fold out our opponent's hands, because for example he's a calling station, then we use checking to prevent ourselves from torching too much money.
Okay, so that means that if we give up on bluffing a hand and therefore losing the pot, we win more money by doing so in the long run against those guys.
Yeah, pretty much. It's important to realize we're not trying to win every hand by force, and we also can't. And we need to know when to give up and make more money that way. It's basically knowing your enemy, right? If you know you can't win, then you just have to give up.
Okay.
So let's move on to concept number 2. So maximizing our EV with our value hands is much more important than being good at bluffing. Most people are very obsessed with looking at their aggression stats and trying to copy what Linus Love does or all the other top guys in the leaderboards. But in reality, our value hands make us shitloads of money, and bluffing a single hand doesn't make us particularly high amounts of money. It really just shows other people we're capable of also bluffing in certain lines and in certain situations, and therefore are quite happy to station us down when we do have the better hand, aka our value hands, for example, aces or whatever, in a particular spot.
Okay. Okay, so it actually gives you, if you look at that way, more equity because if people know you are also bluffing, then you get money from the bluffing if you do it right. Plus, you get extra EV because people just call you wider because they know you're capable of bluffing.
Exactly, and that's all we're trying to do, basically.
Okay.
Also, I want to thank everybody for making it this far into the video. If you enjoyed what you have seen so far, feel free to leave a like and subscribe. Also, if you have any questions or future topic suggestions, leave them in the comments down below. And now, without any further delay, let's continue. Alright, our last concept that we go through in this video will be about equity denial, implied odds, and reverse implied odds.
So, what do all of these words mean?
Okay, let's clarify some of the terms first. So, equity denial means we are stopping our villain from seeing future cards by betting. That's basically the reason why we bet high frequency for small sizing on a lot of different boards. Implied odds means that we make our hand, for example, the nut flush, and then we expect to get a lot of money from our opponent. Reverse implied odds means that when we make our hand, for example, the bad end of a straight, for example, when you have 9-8 and the board is queen jack and we hit our 10, we can still get stacked by ace king. So these are the situations we want to
Okay.
avoid,
But then
basically.
you need to call down more, right? And then
Yeah, exactly. That's right. We are going to hit our gut shot and then we still lose all of our money, basically. So now onto the concept itself. we're always trying to put ourselves into high equity and high implied odds situations with the moves we're making in any situation. For example, in poker, we are betting on the boxer in the ring who is most likely going to win the fight. And what's even more important to understand is that we can adjust the chances of our boxer winning by choosing the right actions like betting, checking, or raising in the right scenarios. Okay, so I have prepared an example for you guys here about the topic of being able to bluff in certain scenarios. So what you can see here is the equilibrium strategy, kind of, when we are in a spot where we almost range bet the flop, then we bet 75 on the turn, and we are now on the river and deciding whether to bet or not. So as you can see, the strategy does have some bluffs, which are some random low pairs, some ace highs, and some no-mate hands in the jack high and queen high region. And it's important kind of to have these bluffs. They're not really unnatural to find. For example, all of these are gut shots or open-enders or whatever. In this case, there's no open-enders. But it's important to keep firing those. And because what I have prepared as well is the other scenario where we take out all of these low pairs and ace high bluffs and also reduce the number of bluffs in general. Our no mate hands are like queen high, jack high. And if we look at our villain's response, if we miss just a little bit, like if we compare the two, here we have a little bit more, right? In the bluff region. Here we have a little bit less. It's not crazy amounts. It is a lot, but it's not crazy. And what you can see here in the example where we are not bluffing enough is our opponent is supposed to call basically 2 pair at the minimum and some king queen. That's about it. That's because in this example, we're just not bluffing. And that means in turn, we can just fold everything. We just fold 82% of our range here that comes to the river. And it's perfectly fine because we know our opponent is drastically under bluffing. If you compare this to our strategy against the equilibrium strategy where our opponent has bluffs, then we have to call down even some second pair here in this case, because our opponent gets here with enough bluffs. And again, to illustrate this, here we're just folding basically everything. And we don't care about anything what our opponent is doing, because we know he's doing something severely wrong, which is under bluffing. So this is all to basically illustrate the concept of bluffing. Like, the examples here are not hard to find. I'm pretty sure most people are actually overdoing this and not giving them up often enough. So in reality, when you're facing against aggressive opponents, here you can station down even wider and put your calling hat on. I have also prepared the other example to this. Again, we just up the frequencies of the bluffs. And now if we look at the strategy, what we're supposed to do is pretty criminal. We're not even supposed to fold out ace high sometimes. And even some low pairs. So we're basically not folding in this other crazy scenario where he's not over bluffing by huge amounts. If we compare this, I just upped it by a couple of percentages. And as you can see, the two things are completely different. Like, this is the normal strategy. We're folding about 50% of our range. Here, we are not folding anything. And here we're folding everything, basically. So it's very important to understand And this also adds into our last episode where we talked about blue liners and red liners. Against certain player types, you have to basically either fold everything or call everything. And that depends on what our opponent is most likely doing. And if, for example, people are supposed to give up some of the missed gut shots and open enders or whatever, and in reality they're not doing that, that's where we always want to call. And that also has to do with a concept called bluff allowance, basically.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you for the clarification. I think using these concepts will really, um, let me make better choices in my game. So.
Yeah, no problem. And also I want to thank everybody for joining today's session. I understand this was a little bit more theoretical session, but don't worry, we're going to continue with more practical cases in the upcoming episode, and we're going to deepen understanding with some hand examples. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.